Good evening. I'm Shauna Lawson. I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations and Annual Giving at UW Tacoma. It's my pleasure to welcome you. Thank you for joining us. I will go ahead and share the land acknowledgement. So we recognize that all of us at UW Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, we are situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. So we ask that you remain muted during the interview portion. After the interview, if there is time, we will take questions in the chat, or you can come off of mute. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please put it in the chat and we will assist. And we do have some things to share with you at the end of this, so definitely stick around. I will now turn this over to our interviewer. She is Vanessa Dasuki, our student from the Milgard School of Business. She is a quantitative tutor at UW Tacoma's Teaching and Learning Center. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our alumni speaker is Megan Ackaert. Megan Ackaert is a Pacific Northwest native who is the managing director and region manager for JP Morgan Chase's middle market team, overseeing the Pacific Northwest. Megan has held various roles within the middle market business. In early 2017, she relocated to Las Vegas to open the first JP Morgan Chase commercial banking office in Nevada. And in late 2018, she moved to Phoenix to oversee Arizona and Nevada. In August 2020, she had the opportunity to return to Seattle to lead the Pacific Northwest. Megan and her team work with public and privately held companies to provide financial service solutions, both domestically and internationally. She has worked with organizations in a variety of industries and has assisted with working capital, capital expenditure, and acquisition financing. Given her passion for affordable education, Megan is currently on the board of the Seattle Colleges Foundation and an advisory board member for ASCEN. So Megan, tell us about the company that you work for. What do you do in your current role as a Pacific Northwest Market Region Manager?
Sure, thanks Vanessa, and thanks very much for having me tonight. So JP Morgan Chase is the largest US financial institution. We have, this ebbs and flows a little bit, but call it roughly 250,000 employees worldwide. I think generally when people think of JP Morgan Chase, they think of our vast branch network across the United States. So you'll see Chase branches everywhere. Over 50% of households have a Chase credit or debit card in their wallet. So certainly we are very much a consumer bank, banking individuals, mortgages, individual accounts, retirement investments, those types of things. We also have a phenomenal investment bank. So we help clients go public. We help them raise debt and equity. We help them sell themselves. The middle market business falls kind of somewhere in between. So I bank and my team banks companies that are typically privately held, although we do have some publicly traded clients. Our clients are generally owned by either families, multiple generations of families at times, or private equity or family offices. So typically what we're doing for our customers is a number of things. So we're helping them with their day-to-day cash flow needs. So if you think about a business, it's not unlike an individual. You have to pay your bills, you have to collect from your customers, you have to make payroll, all of those types of things. And so we're very much a technology company wanting to eliminate manual process, try to make things as easy as we can for our clients so that they can spend their time running their business and not managing their banking. We also obviously lend money to our clients. So we lend money to them to buy buildings or buy equipment or manage their working capital. So we essentially look at our clients and say, okay, what are all the things that you need? And we'll take care of that. The other big thing that we have, which is a differentiator at JP Morgan, is an international bank. More and more of our clients are doing business internationally, whether that means they're setting up a subsidiary somewhere else, or they are sourcing product from another country. All those types of things we take care of for our clients as well.
And a follow-up question would be, how and why did you decide to get involved in the banking industry and management?
I'm going to call it a happy accident. I was a bank teller while I was in college, while I was going to UW Tacoma. So it actually worked out nicely. As we were talking about earlier during the pre-call, I had classes either on Monday or Wednesday or Tuesday, Thursday, and then I would work full-time the other days and worked on Saturdays. And honestly, being a teller, working in a branch when you're in college is a great job. So think about that for anybody who's looking. But when I graduated, Russell Investments was still down the street in Tacoma, and they were recruiting really, really heavily from my class. And a number of my, my friends ended up working for Russell. But I kind of looked at banking and I thought, this is really fun. Like I get to interact with customers. I get to use my finance background. It just kind of worked out. So after I graduated, I took a job I was with KeyBank at the time, had been a teller for them. I ended up being there for 8 years. And I started at the, sort of the bottom on the middle market team at Key. So I was kind of an admin / customer service rep, taking care of our clients, which was a crash course in learning about the kinds of companies that we work with and what they need and what they do. And then, from there had opportunities to expand my career and do different things. And so I guess I would say it was a little bit of an accident getting into banking, but very deliberate in choosing to stay here. And, it's always challenging. There are always new things going on in banking. And so it's been very rewarding.
That's good to hear. So another question would be, what was your most significant learning experience you had as a UW Tacoma student?
Most significant learning experience. So when I went to UW Tacoma, it was not yet a 4-year school. So I went to TCC for 2 years and then transferred in. And I think the thing that I just realized immediately was just the caliber of people at UW Tacoma. It was just an impressive group of students, an impressive group of professors. And I feel like I had to up my game. I had to, I had to study a little harder. I had to work a little harder. But it was kind of, it was a great experience because it got me ready for my work life, which was, sort of always going to be studying a little harder and and challenging myself to do new things. So I think the culture at UW Tacoma was also wonderful for me. As an 18-year-old, I don't think I would have been successful going to a large university where there were hundreds of students in a big classroom. I just don't know that was going to work for me. One of the things I loved about UW was none of my classes were more than 60 people. I really got to know my classmates. A couple of them continue to be some of my, my best friends today, which is, I think, really special. So just that, culture of challenging yourself and being around really smart people, I think certainly prepared me to join JP Morgan Chase, where, every day I am impressed with the caliber of people I get to work with and really, really grateful.
You mentioned earlier about professors. Who were the professors, mentors, or people in your life that added to your experience?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I sadly cannot remember the professor's name, but she was my communications professor. And I just will never forget, it was an election year when I was in her class, and I wrote a paper about the primary elections. And I was sort of passionate about it at the time. And I spent a lot of hours, talking with her about how to, best communicate passion in a way that doesn't turn people off, in a way that not necessarily convinces people to believe the way that I do, but helps them understand that point of view. And I just felt like she was such an influential person in how I think about things today. She was great, and she spent the extra time. She was just one of those professors that, if I sent her a note and said, hey, can I have 10 minutes of your time? She would drop anything to do it. And it wasn't just for me. She was like that with all of her students. So she was pretty exceptional. And I think just, really helped me be a better communicator.
That's good to hear. And back to your current role, what surprised you most about working in management?
Yeah. I think that a lot of people complain about management. And, don't get me wrong, there are hard days and there's hard decisions. And sometimes you have to communicate things that you don't necessarily want to communicate. But I find it so rewarding. There is just nothing better than sitting down with someone on the team and talking to them about what their goals are, what they want to do, what help they need. And then, putting them in touch with the right people, challenging them with new opportunities, whatever sort of those next steps are. I think I'm just surprised at how rewarding that really is. I just, I really love it. I love the leadership part of it. But, as my team, when I first got into management, I managed 3 people. And I felt really overwhelmed with that. And then my next management role, I had like 15 people, and I was like, this is a lot of people. And now, we're a team of almost 30 people in 4 different cities where people sit, covering, 3.5 states, covering Oregon, Washington, Northern Idaho, and Alaska. And so now the challenges are that I manage managers. And so that's a completely different kind of management. Because you want to empower your leaders, but you also want to make sure you maintain culture across different states and across different teams. So I will never say that I have it all figured out. I think it continues to be something that I work at, and I know I have a couple of people from my team on here today, so I hope they feel like we're doing an okay job. But I think you just have to keep getting better, and you just have to be humble, and everyone needs something different from you too. So you can't manage everyone the same way.
As you mentioned earlier, you manage in 3 different states. So how has geographic mobility impacted you in your career, and what did you have to consider when relocating or traveling for your job?
Yeah. So I did. I moved 3 times in 4 years for the bank. It's kind of interesting. That was never the intention, right? And I think that as all of you think about your career progression, I think you can map it out and you can say, this is what I think it's going to be. And then, you know what? Someone might call you one day and offer you something really weird, like, do you want to move to Las Vegas and open up a team where you've never lived and don't know anyone? That was what I got asked. And, my husband and I had talked about being mobile, and thankfully, he was able to transfer with his job and has been in a role that allowed him to continue to move. But I think honestly, family is the biggest consideration. If you have a spouse and children and parents and those types of things, you have to consider that and think about what's really important to you. Thankfully, I was in a place in my life where I could take a chance, and that's essentially what I think I did. I wasn't thinking it at the time, but in hindsight, I bet on myself, and I figured I would figure it out. And I did, and it worked out, and it's been a really successful team. And I continue to just be so impressed with what they're doing every day. I got an email from one of them today. They just won a big deal. It's really exciting. But I had planned to stay in Vegas for a while. I didn't necessarily have a timeline on it, but then my boss got promoted, and he called me and said, hey, do you want to move to Phoenix and take a promotion and lead Arizona and Nevada? And I said, no, thanks. I said, no, thanks about 4 times. And, finally he wore me down, and I'm so glad that he did, because that was a tremendous opportunity with a really mature team. So I had gone from a brand new team where I didn't know anyone to a very mature team where everybody was already, doing a great job, and we had, a lot of market share from a client perspective. And I really enjoyed my time in Arizona. But then again, I thought I'd be there forever, and I got the call of, hey, we're going to consolidate the Pacific Northwest into one big region, one super region. How do you feel about moving home? And again, I said, no, thanks. I'm really happy. I liked all this sunshine. But but in the end, the draw to come home, to get to, live in Seattle again, to get to work with the tremendous team that we have up here, it just, it was such a great opportunity. So I tell you all of this because I think, to the extent that you're mobile within different pieces of time in your life, it can really accelerate your career. I would never be in the role that I'm in today if I had not left Seattle, if I hadn't taken that chance on myself in Las Vegas. It's just, when you're not mobile, you have to wait, and you have to wait for those opportunities to open up versus moving for them. That being said, there are different kinds of mobility changing, for us, lines of business. So, maybe going from banking companies to banking, financial institutions, banking banks, or banking individuals, or banking, wealthy individuals. I mean, there's all different kinds of things. That's one of the awesome things about JP Morgan, I think. We have 250,000 employees, and every one of them does something different, right? So what do you want to do? Like, what's exciting to you? Find your place within the firm, and you can continue to grow, even if it's lateral, or maybe even taking a step back from a title perspective to take 3 steps forward. I think there's a lot of opportunity for mobility.
Thanks for letting us know your story, and thank you for the advice as well. So, in your current job, how have you worked on impacting diversity in your work industry through leadership and in the community?
Yeah, I know it is Women's History Month, so there's certainly an element of wanting to make sure that there is someone to look up to, someone that looks like you in a leadership role, someone that represents you, to be able to say, gosh, this is what I want. And when I was earlier in my career, there were not always women in leadership. There certainly weren't people of color in leadership, and certainly not females of color in leadership roles. And so it's always been something that has bugged me and has been on my mind. And so something that I personally think a lot about, but as a firm, we think a lot about it too. And we've made amazing strides as an institution. Few things that we have going on right now. We launched the racial equity commitment about a year ago now. We are investing in a few places. So, and Seattle is a priority city. And when I say Seattle, it's really Seattle Metro, including Snohomish, Pierce, and King counties. We are focused on affordable housing and home ownership for Black and Latinx Americans. We want to get more people into sort of the American dream of home ownership and wealth generation. Building wealth through home equity is really important. And so we are focused on helping folks do that. Also, Black and Latinx Asian entrepreneurship. We want to help more minority entrepreneurs, women and vets as well, figure out how to take their business idea and turn it into a great business, a growing business, a generational business, something that they can hand off to their children when they're ready to retire. And then, of course, supplier diversity. We are a large consumer of goods and things. And so we are taking a really hard look at who's supplying us. Can we buy from smaller suppliers? Can we help those smaller suppliers get in touch with other businesses, large businesses that can buy from them and make them bigger businesses? So as an institution, and then here locally, we're very, very focused on that. And, spending a lot of time figuring out how to do this best. Myself personally, I'm a huge proponent of affordable education. I hate the idea of students getting out of school with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And so I sit on the board of the Seattle Colleges Foundation. So the three community colleges in Seattle, and really focused on how do we get more students into the community college system, either to be able to transfer to a four-year university or to be able to learn a trade or a skill that's going to get them job ready. And we have a very, very diverse student mix. We used to have a fairly international heavy student mix, but COVID has changed that a little bit. And then I also sit on the advisory board for Ascend. For those of you who don't know what Ascend is, it really got started through the Foster School at UW in conjunction with JP Morgan Chase, and has since grown, and now we're 13 cities. But really what we do is we partner with the business schools and say, all right, we have these minority and women-owned, again, small businesses. What do we need to do to like get them ready to be bigger businesses? Can we help them with their financials? Can we help them with growth equity? Can we help them with, financing of something? Can we, who can we put them in touch with that's going to help them grow? And so right now we're getting ready to pilot. We'll start this in September. We're going to pick 60 small businesses, so companies with revenues between $8-10 million, and say, okay, how do we make you a bigger business? What do you need? What information do you need? What resources do you need? With the goal to make them big enough to kind of fit into middle market, which is my world. So I typically bank companies $20 to $500 million in revenue.
Talking about Ascent, how did you become a board member and what prompted you to get involved there?
Yeah, so I think initially it was really our JP Morgan's partnership with Ascend. We have been making grants to Ascend for the last at least 8 years, maybe 10, and made a large grant of $8 million last year to Ascend to continue the work. And so when I learned about it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is like fantastic, but it sort of doesn't pair very well with what I do every day because it's very small business focused. And then they said, you know what, we really want to help these companies get bigger. And partnering with you, we're working with RSM, which is a large middle market CPA firm, to help these companies. And so that's kind of how I got involved. Is I wanted to be part of that. We're going to start small. We want to start with something that we can manage. So 60 companies across the country. But my hope is that we continue to grow this every single year and help more and more companies grow. And again, it's really about that generational wealth, like getting families into sort of that next tier of wealth, and then allowing them the opportunity to buy homes and do all the things that they want to do with their lives. So it's pretty exciting.
That's amazing. And if you could go back in time and do it all over, what would you do differently? Like, is there a class that you wish you would have taken or paid more attention in? Or are there student groups or activities you wish you had engaged in?
Yeah, I do. I would just encourage all of you to really enjoy this time of your life, because you have plenty of time later on to be, stressed and busy and running around managing life and work. I wish I would have enjoyed my time in college more, and just, really sort of enjoyed it for what it was at that point in my life. Interestingly, the class I think I hated the most, which is kind of comical now, I hated my financial statement analysis class. Like, hated it. I just thought it was the worst class ever. And that's what I do all the time now. Like, that's my job. That's what our team does. The first thing we do when a client says, hey, we really want you to take a look at our business, is we say, great, send us your financial statements. And then we take a look at them, we review them, we make credit decisions based on them. We have to understand how cash flow works and what their balance sheet looks like, and all of these things. But in that class, I did not enjoy it. I needed context, apparently. I wish I could take that class again. I feel confident I would do better.
So what would you say to students who are nervous about not working specifically in their field of study?
Meaning going into a career that they didn't necessarily major in?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I did, right? I have a finance degree, and actually that's because I am a accounting major dropout. I took a couple of accounting classes and decided that being an accountant, because I thought I wanted to be a CPA, was not going to be for me. And the easiest way to not have to retake a bunch of classes for me was to become a finance major. So I'm really glad that I did that, but it was also kind of a happy accident. But we have a number of people on our team, and I certainly have friends and colleagues and those types of things with people that have degrees in all sorts of things. I think that, when I can specifically speak to banking, I think people start in banking, particularly in our retail branches, and think this is a temporary job. I'm just going to do this for a little while. The benefits are great. And then they kind of fall in love with it. Ooh, sorry. They kind of fall in love with it. And I think, again, it's that combination of getting to interact with people, but also getting to use the analytical piece of our brains. But I have, English majors and philosophy majors and, history majors and all kinds of things, people on our teams. But I think what's important as you're thinking about that is if you decide to kind of make that shift, you have to know that you're probably not coming into it with the traditional background. So there's going to be a lot to learn. But that being said, like, own what you do know, own what you do bring to the table, because you probably think about things in a very different way than everyone else that you're working with. And that's a great thing. The best thing for a team is to have a group of people that come from different backgrounds, have different experiences, really view the world differently, because it challenges everybody to be better and think about things differently. I mean, when I think about our team, the worst thing that could happen is for me to just hire a bunch of people that think just like I do. That's just, we will not be our best selves in that scenario. So my advice is, if you decide to do something different, that's wonderful. Take the chance again on yourself. Know that there's probably some work for you to do to get caught up, but that you really, are bringing something excellent too.
When you mentioned about getting your degree, how has getting your degree impacted your family?
Yeah. So my grandparents were immigrants from Belgium, and they came to the United States. They didn't speak the language, and they had a hard time, and they had, a toddler, and my grandmother was pregnant with my dad at the time. And so imagine coming to this country and not knowing anyone. And I know a number of you have, similar backgrounds, being first or second generation. And then on my mom's side, her family, she was one of five. They really didn't have a lot of money. Going to college just wasn't sort of on the radar. My mom is brilliant, and I'm super proud of her. And I think if she had been pushed a little bit harder, she could have had, an amazing career too. I think that's what is so wonderful about my family, is that they really pushed me. I mean, not going to college kind of wasn't an option. And I think that was good, because I don't know if I had had options, what I would have done. But for my family, and my mom's sister has a really great job and has an MBA and is, super well educated, but she was really the only person that had gone to college in my family when I did. So I was really proud, and I remember when I graduated, my grandmother was very ill. She had terminal cancer, and so she couldn't come to my graduation. But I went over there in my cap and gown, and she just cried. I mean, she'd come to this country for a better life for herself and her family, and to see her granddaughter graduate from the University of Washington was a pretty amazing thing. And so, and then, my sister is 3 years younger than me, and she did the same thing. She went to a community college and then transferred in to a 4-year school and graduated. And so, like, I look at, I don't have children myself, but I have 2 wonderful nephews, and I look at them and I think they are going to just continue to get educated, continue to do great things. and you just can kind of see that progression in families, particularly, immigrant families. So I think it's what everybody hopes when you have kids, right? That they'll, do great things and continue on, and then have kids of their own and do the same.
That's wonderful to hear. And last question, when you're not at work, what are you doing for self-care, or what is your favorite activity or hobby that you like to do?
So my very favorite thing to do is to travel, which has been such a bummer over the last couple of years. But I'm very, blessed to have a wonderful spouse who really kind of taught me about traveling. I joke, but it's kind of true. When we started dating, the first thing he did was march me down to go get my passport, because he was a big traveler and I had not really traveled much at all internationally. And he's really, shown me a love for travel, and not just the travel piece of it, but seeing other cultures, seeing how people live, seeing that at the end of the day, all of us are really the same. We all really just want to take care of our families and live in peace. And we've been to, countries that are certainly, considered, poor, but you'd never know it, because people there are so happy and they have, wonderful lives. And I think that travel makes people better. You get the opportunity to travel the world. I encourage you to do it. I think you get a different perspective, and it's just good for your soul. I always say that traveling is good for your soul. But given that hasn't been an option too much lately, I'd say a few things. I try to make sure that I'm getting exercise in on a regular basis. I think that's really important. It clears your mind and it allows me some white space in my day. Typically from about 7:30 in the morning until about 6 o'clock at night, my calendar is jam packed and it doesn't allow me a lot of time to think. So when I'm running or I'm on the bike or whatever I'm doing, it really gives me a chance to just think. I was talking to someone else about this today, actually. We're talking about how important it is to just let your mind be free for a little bit. That's when your best ideas will come to you. I also love to cook and I love to be around my family. And I will admit, I got a COVID puppy that, my poor team has to hear about all the time, because I absolutely adore this dog. And, really great time for me is sitting on the couch hanging out with her.
Thank you for telling us your stories and experiences and advice. So we will now have questions and answers. Please put your questions in the chat or come off on mute to ask your questions.
I have a question. You talked about a professor that was particularly impactful. Professionally, have you had any mentors, or have you had mentoring opportunities, and how has that played a role, and what's the kind of best advice that you've gotten or given?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Autumn. Thanks. I have. So, and I think that's actually such a great question, because you just never know where your career will take you, and the networking and the contacts that you make, where that will go. When I was a middle market banker, I was part of a kind of a young leaders group, I guess. And I think it had a fancier name than that, but that's essentially what it was. And I got paired up with a region manager. So someone in my role today, in another region. And I'm not usually a fan of forced mentorship. I like it better when it happens naturally, but he and I just really clicked, and we developed a really great relationship. And this was probably maybe 2015-ish. And we started talking for an hour once a month. And, in the beginning, it was me coming to him and saying, hey, like, I'm working on all this stuff. Like, what do you think? And getting his advice. And then he is actually the person that hired me for the job in Las Vegas. And then he was one of the people that vacated the job in Arizona that allowed me to move there. And to this day, all these years, we still talk once a month. Obviously, our relationship has changed, and now we're actually peers. And so we have different things to talk about, but I just appreciate him so much. And there's certainly a trust that's been built. And I feel like I can call him and just say, ah, like, this is my day, or I can call him and say, hey, I've got this situation. What do you think? And he does the same with me. And I think it's a pretty special thing. I have also had some fantastic managers and leaders, people that pushed me, challenged me. When I think back, I think, gosh, they really took a chance on me. They really put me in jobs that I wasn't really ready for. And as a woman, like statistics will tell you, women always want to feel like you're super ready for the job. And men are like, yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll do the job. And so I needed that push, and I'm so glad that I got it. Um, and I really appreciate those people that maybe see something in you that you don't see in yourself, and then push you to be better. And I try to think about that, all the time when I meet with people, particularly our younger juniors, making sure that they feel supported, have the ability to fail and get themselves back up and be really successful. Because certainly I've had a number of moments of like that myself.
Thanks for the answer. I see that Ranju has a question.
Yeah, appreciate it. Actually, that was my last question as well regarding mentorship, but also another one. When someone asks you about culture and how important culture is as part of an organization, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think the term culture can get thrown around quite a bit. Everyone always talks about that. When I think about it, I think that at least for me, it's about servant leadership. It's not my job to preside over the team and tell people what to do. My job is to roll up my sleeves and help people do their jobs and do them well, and help guide and lead, and then encourage the team to really work together. And to me, that's what a good culture is. It's celebrating each other's successes. It's picking each other up when you fall down. It's really working as one team. We talk a lot about like rowing the boat in the same direction. It does a little bit come from Boys in the Boat, but that's kind of what I think about is everybody on that boat has to be in sync and rowing and working together. And I think that being on a winning team is always more fun than being on a team that's not winning, right? And so I think about that a lot. Organizationally, one of the things I absolutely love about JP Morgan Chase is that our CEO, Jamie Dimon, sets the tone for our institution. He holds himself to a high standard, and he holds all of us to a very high standard. He says, this is how we are going to behave. These are the things that we are going to do. These are the things we are not going to do because they're not good things to do. And whether you are in Tacoma, Washington, or New York City, or Singapore, because Nishant, I'm looking at you, that resonates throughout the entire firm. And to be able to do that for 250-ish thousand employees, that's pretty amazing. And so, I think of him as the ultimate, leader and person that really stands by his principles. And, I really try to emulate that. And I try to make sure that, everybody on our team is feeling, supported, rewarded, efforts being made around them. And that, everyone's helping each other, because that's really what you need. I want everybody to want to come to work every day, right? Never want anybody to be sitting, in the parking lot thinking, oh, I don't want to go in there. I've had those jobs. I don't ever want that again. I want it to be, hey, I get to go to work. Yes, I have to work hard, but I get to work with really great people that I care about and I respect.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. So I do have a question myself. What is the one piece of advice that you would actually give to current students?
I think try different things. Try different things. I mean, when you all graduate, you're going to be, probably some of you are a little older, but 22-ish. You don't have to make a choice on what you want to do for the rest of your life at 22 or 23 years old. I would say find an institution that you really believe in, that has a lot of opportunity for you, and get in the door, learn, work hard, figure out what you want to do, and then go after it with everything you've got. I think sometimes, and I don't know where it comes from exactly, but I see it with our analysts and our interns. It's like they're so smart and they're so talented, but they're so focused on, I have to make the right choice. And it's like, it's okay. You can choose to do something else later. It's totally fine. And if you're with the right institution, you don't ever have to leave. You can choose to do something different and stay with the same firm, which is a really, a really cool thing.
Thank you for the advice. We do have a question in the chat from Leslie. It says, what are you reading these days and what are your long-term goals?
What am I reading these days? That is so funny. I was talking to someone else about this the other day. So the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I look at the Wall Street Journal. I want to know, because we're 3 hours behind, it's like, where's the market? What's going on today? Right now, there's an awful lot of kind of sad and, strange things going on in the world. And I just want to make sure I kind of get a feel for that. So that's the first thing I do is I look at my Wall Street Journal app and I have the alerts on. So all the big stuff I hear about later in the day, but I read so much stuff for work that I rarely get the opportunity to read anything for fun. But when I do, I tend to read books around history. So I tend to read books that, for whatever reason, like the medieval time period, I find fascinating. And so I tend to read a lot of books around that. I also find it interesting, people say history repeats itself, and it's interesting, you read some of this stuff from a long time ago and you just think, gosh, there's an awful lot of parallels to today. I wish we would have maybe learned something from that. My long-term goals, that's changed too. I've been in banking for almost 20 years at this point. But have achieved a lot. I don't know that I have necessarily, lofty goals to run the bank or anything like that. I think for me, it's really about, how do I help my team? How do I get them where they want to be? How do I get them to their next step? Whether that's, on my team somewhere, or, I was talking to someone today about, he really wants to live abroad. And that's one of the reasons that he chose JP Morgan, was he knew that there would be opportunities to do that. And so we were talking about, okay, let's get you in front of the right people. Let's make sure you're well networked. Let's get you all the experience that you can possibly get in your current role to prepare you for that. So I think those are really my goals, is to help people achieve what they want to achieve on the team.
Also, we have another question from Luba. If you want to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Luba, and give me a second. And I am a marketing major, and I'm graduating this spring. And I'll be going to interviews, and I'm hoping, is there maybe like a trait or something, or a skill I could focus on, that I could bring to the table that would make me maybe stand out? Because you said with interns as well, and maybe there's a trait that you notice that you appreciate more than other traits.
When I'm interviewing people, you mean?
Yeah, or when.
Yeah. So when I'm interviewing intern or analyst candidates, I'm really looking for probably two main things. One, if you're graduating from UW Tacoma with a decent GPA, I know that you can study and you can do the sort of work, right? So I think that's sort of step one, is making sure that on your resume, you highlight the like great things that make you stand out. So whether that's being in a student group, or if you have work experience, I always think that that's great. Because it demonstrates, again, that you can work and go to school, or be part of or do an internship, or be part of a student group, something outside of sort of your day-to-day going to class. But the thing that I really hire for is culture fit and personality. are you somebody that I believe will fit in with the team, will only be additive, will not to take away from what we're doing, and that you'll have a great attitude and grit and fire and hustle. That is just something that you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. And so when you're interviewing, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, look, here are the reasons that I want this job. You know, I've done some research on your business. I've done some research on your company, and I want this job because, and here's why I think I'd be good at it. I think a lot of times I end up interviewing people that maybe see JP Morgan and kind of know what that is, or they don't really know what they're interviewing for. And throughout the discussion, that becomes clear. And those typically are not the people that I move forward with. So do a little work and make sure that you're prepared to sell yourself during that interview.
Thank you. One quick thing. What's the standing out GPA? You mean? What's that number for you?
You know, it depends. To be just totally honest, when if there's a student that has worked their whole way through school, and you know, like, I'm not upset if their GPA is in the lower threes. Like, that's, you know, that's not the end of the world to me. If you are not working and you know, you maybe get to study full time and you don't sort of have those other distractions, then yeah, I expect your GPA to be a little bit higher. You know, if people have done study abroad or things like that, I think those are other great things to highlight. I mean, every student has a different story and a different background. So it's, to me, it's less about the GPA and more about understanding how that GPA sort of plays into their life.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, maybe if it's okay, Vanessa, I'll just make a plug for our internships and our analyst role, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay.
So we throughout the firm, certainly on my team, but in the private bank and in other places, I'm going to say Washington, most of the roles are in Seattle, but some actually are in Tacoma. We hire summer analysts, or summer interns between their students' junior and senior year. They spend 10 weeks with us. We do all kinds of fun things and probably some not so fun things. There's usually a project and those kinds of things, but they get to spend time with the teams. And if you do a good job at the end of it, you get offered a full-time job when you graduate. And when I think back to my time in college, if I had known my whole senior year that I had a great opportunity with JP Morgan when I was done, I think I would have felt a lot less stress. So our analyst program, so you graduate from college, you join our team, and this is true for the other lines of business as well. We send you to Chicago or Plano. You get to spend a few months getting to know your peers. Going through training. In our world, you learn about credit and, again, financial statements and accounting and all of that stuff. And then you get to come back to the team and you get to do 3 rotations. So one is a sales rotation. The other is our treasury team, which is really like technology. Again, kind of the things I was talking about earlier around helping our clients eliminate manual process. And then the third being credit rotation. So really learning how we underwrite deals, why we look at things the way that we do, all of that kind of stuff. So you spend 3 years really learning that. And then from there, you get to pick your path. So you get to say, I want to be X and I want to do it in this city, and we match people up. So if you want to, start your career in New York and end it in Seattle, we're happy about that. We don't love it when it goes the other way, but we're still happy for everyone as long as they stay with the firm. So it's a really amazing program and great opportunity. All of our jobs are always posted on Handshake. We try to make sure that we're, posting things on LinkedIn too. So if you're not connected with any of us on LinkedIn, I would recommend that you do if you're interested in our internships or our analyst role.
Thank you for sharing that. Also, this is a question for myself, since I'm also graduating in spring, and if I'm interested in the summer internships for 2023, and I know you mentioned in our pre-call that it's opened. Am I eligible to do that?
So our 2022 internships are all full. I would think you probably, when you graduate, will probably go work somewhere for a year.
Yes, but I'm also interested in 2023, but I'm not at school. Like I graduated.
Yeah, I would say that we would probably be more interested in someone with that background for directly into our analyst program and not doing a summer internship. So if you think about it, like we're going to have 10 interns on our team this summer. We will make offers to as many of them as, sort of do well through the program, but we may end up with some open positions. And so typically those jobs are getting posted in the fall for analyst roles. And so that's probably the right step for you or anybody in that position who's already graduated, is to apply for the analyst positions.
And I just wanted to jump in and say, Megan, we'll also share that internship information with our Career Development Center and our career services. So we will definitely be passing that on our campus so that students can be aware of that.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you for
And we
sharing.
do have Handshake, which is a popular tool for students to find internships and jobs and things like that.
Nothing would make me happier than to hire some UW grads. So please apply.
Yeah, thank you for the advice. Is there any other questions? Okay, so I will now turn it back over to Chana Lawson.
All right, thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, Megan. And Megan, I'm so excited with the information that you shared. I'm glad to send this video out to those who may have come a little late or people that maybe didn't get to come but wanted to. So I will definitely be sharing that. We do have some information to share here. I wanted to go ahead and put up a couple of QR codes for you. For those who are with the Milgard Gold program, you'll be able to either take a picture of that QR code, and then that way you can get your points or your credit. We also have Tacoma Husky Landing, which, Megan, I think I saw that you joined that, which is good because you said you prefer more organic mentoring, and there's an opportunity for students to connect with alumni, faculty, staff, community on that platform. It is a career networking platform. And students sometimes just reach out at the last minute and say, hey, do you have a minute to talk? So that'll open up opportunities there. But I'll share a QR code for that as well. So I will be doing that right now. Hold on one moment so I can share my screen. Taking a moment to load here. So this is the gold program QR code. So you can go ahead if you're students and take a picture of that or try to scan it, and hopefully it'll pop up for you. I'll give it a couple minutes here. Okay, and then there's the QR code for Tacoma Husky Landing. If you haven't joined the platform, you can take a picture of this QR code, or you can try to scan it and join the platform, learn more about it. Okay, so I hope everybody got that. Our next alumni speaker will be Jeff Dade from the School of Urban Studies, alum from the School of Urban Studies. He's also the Community Development Director at Forterra. So you will want to be here for that. You'll find the information on the website soon. And I believe that that is on April the 6th, 6 to 7 p.m. We also have Husky Giving Day coming up on April the 7th. So there will be a lot going on. We are looking forward to people becoming ambassadors. You may have seen some communication about it. That's where we get to swell the ground with support for our students at UW-Tacoma. So just wanted to remind people to look for that. You should get some communication in mid-March, but we look forward to everybody joining us for that. And with that, if there's nothing else, I will, okay. So there is some information in the chat. Thank you, Brianna. And then I just wanted to thank Brianna and Nicole. They were here helping us with our tech. That's our Senior Director for Operations and our Events Manager. So just wanted to thank everybody and call out the Alumni Council members who are on in this meeting as well, or in this event. Thank you all for coming. And with that, we will bid you adieu. Thank you.